So, many years ago, my mom took our whole family, a very large group, to a restaurant on the Riverwalk in San Antonio. And we had the greatest time, and we ordered who knows how much stuff, and there were, I don't know how many people there were, like 8 of us, and it was a big group. And we ate a lot of food and ordered a lot of food, and in the process, we were all just so enjoying each other and just completely. And my mom, as she often would do, she says, I'm paying for everything. I've got it covered. And so she was very generous, and she would do that. And so we all walked out. Mom's got it covered. And then we get a certain distance down the Riverwalk, and it dawned on her, I never tipped the waitress. Very disturbing. Have y'all ever done that before? Did you feel bad? How many of y'all believe in tipping the waitress or waiter? Okay, almost every hand in this vast congregation raised their hand. Okay, so good. So you have a strong sense of ethics and decency, right? Okay, so we went back. I think I went back, and she said, we've got to tip her. And so when we got back, the waitress had quit. I know. She threw her towel, she threw down her apron or whatever and said, I'm done. She says, that's the last one. I can't take it anymore. Apparently other people had not tipped her as well, and ours was a big bill. And so she quit, and we're like, and so the best thing we could do is, please, you have her contact if you can give her this anyway. So anyway, all that's to say is that the scripture says to not muzzle the ox while they're threshing. In other words, there's a reciprocity, there's a process. And when the scripture refers to that, it's talking about our disposition as the people of God and how we support the local ministry. I know, I set you up, didn't I? And as I say the next thing, I want to preface this with, we have a lot of people in our church that tithe. They give the 10th. They support this ministry. A lot of them give more than the tithe. There's a wonderful spirit of generosity in our body that I really love and I really appreciate. But when you walk in and you say, well, I like what you're probably here today because you like what we offer, right? It's not like we're a business. We're a community of believers, but together, collectively, we pull together and we cover the overhead, we pay what needs to be paid, and we save up for our expansion and all these things. And even like this week, we're installing $12,000 worth of AC units. And by the way, if anybody would like to donate $12,000 to just cover that, it's welcome. You spell thousand, Thousand. But here's what I want to tell you. And so as I kind of look, our church has been growing considerably in the last year or so. But there are a lot of folks that see the church as kind of like a resource center. And it's free. But what I want you to understand is nothing free. And so people perhaps can misunderstand the fact that we don't pass the plate. We don't say a lot about offerings and collections very often. And so they can misinterpret that as that, well, I guess they're fine. They don't need any help. Could we get more money if we'd pass the plate and have a celebration every single week? Maybe. I really don't want to do that. It's not in my DNA. I would go poor probably before I would ever do that again. I haven't passed a plate in a church in many years, unless it's Buddy Barrel. If it's Buddy Barrel that day, the children will fleece the saints. So all of that's to say this is that there are we can look at it, we can see the kind of the ebb and flow of our ministry and kind of how the money comes in and money goes out and all that. But I'll tell you that the majority of our people really give, and often give a full tithe to support our church, and we wouldn't make it if they weren't that committed and that consistent. But there's a large percentage, I'm not going to tell you how many, but it would probably surprise you. There's a large percentage of people that attend our church month after month after month, and probably give nothing. I know it's shocking. How do you do that? I mean, you would never not tip a waitress. So if you don't tip a waitress, listen, even if they give bad service, I tip them anyway. I might tip them a lot more if they did superb service. But I can't think of a time where I'd ever just say, I'm just not going to tip you at all. I can't even think of an occasion when that ever occurred. Unless I was dumb like we were on the San Antonio Riverwalk and just it was an oversight or forgetfulness or something. But it's because there's an obligation, a sense of ethics, a sense of responsibility. So here's what I want to tell you. Sometimes people will not give and tithe because they feel like they're in hardship. And sometimes, and there's grace for hardship. But see, what I would tell you is this. It's like, you ever heard of priming the pump? Y'all know what that means? Have you ever used like a manual pump? There's not very many of those around anymore, but to get it to start pumping water, you have to put water in it first. You have to prime the pump. You have to give first. And that's what I want to say is that prime your pump. Get some motion. You can't steer a car unless it's moving. But to go week after week and month after month and sometimes even year after year and withhold from the work of God and not supporting the work of God, I think it's unethical. So I want to challenge you today. If you feel like, gosh, I can't, $5, $10. I'm going to sound like Trump. Trump's like, just donate $5 to our cause. I'm like, $5? How much is $5? But here I am doing it. Say, listen, I'm only trying to teach you a principle of priming the pump. You've got to start somewhere. I don't know anybody that can't afford $5 or $10. I know you're saying, and many people, I think they have the idea that, well, if I'm not tithing, I shouldn't do it at all. But I don't think that way at all. I don't think that's true. It's like, well, I'm not going to tip this waiter because I can't give them 30%. I can only give them 5 or 10%, but you would still tip them, right? So what I'm saying is that there's got to be a point of commitment and stepping up to the plate and understanding. So I'm doing you a favor as a pastor to relate to you that if you're in that large percentage of people that just really don't give, or it's hardly at all, or sometimes month after month, week after week, there's just nothing there. And I want to challenge you today, prime your pump. Do not muzzle the ox while it's threshing. That's the principle, is that when you're receiving and you're blessed and you're part of a ministry, then get some skin in the game and start things moving, right? So that's what I had on my heart. I hope that that's working for you this morning. And you just say, I'm a giver. I have a generous spirit. I am willing to step up to the plate and do my part, right? So